I think it's been around forever, right? Really. And what we're seeing, though, is an intensification and sort of a normalization of the spread of misinformation. Yes, social media has played a huge role in the spread of misinformation. But if you look at a topic like vaccines, for example, as soon as vaccines started to emerge, right, we saw misinformation associated with them. We saw public division associated with them. So, this isn't new. This isn't new. In fact, some of the same misinformation tools were used in the context of the first vaccines, as we're seeing today with, for example, the COVID vaccines. What I think has really changed is the magnitude of the misinformation, the ease at which it can be spread, and I also think we're seeing a change in the actual impact that misinformation is having on individual lives, on public institutions, and on our democracy. And the other thing I think we're seeing is this decrease in trust in institutions that make it that makes it more difficult to fight misinformation. Misinformation really can come from anyone, right? I call it the misinformation continuum, right? So on one side of that continuum, you have these individuals that are spreading misinformation with clear intent, right? They know it's a lie, and they're spreading it in order to satisfy a particular agenda, to sell a product, right, to build a brand. That's disinformation, and unfortunately, it's all too common. And in fact, nation states do that, right? And we know that nation states around the world are involved in that kind of spreading of misinformation. You move along that continuum, right? And you get individuals that perhaps are vaguely aware that what they're spreading isn't correct. I think a lot of your wellness influencers would fall into this category. They probably know or ought to know that this is misinformation, but again, they're spreading it because they want to sell a product, build a brand. You move further along that continuum, and you get to the point where there's just individuals who are trying to figure out what to do, for themselves, for their family, for their community, and they're inadvertently spreading misinformation. All forms of it do harm, right? All forms of it do harm, and we need to recognize that. But they're very different, and our tools that we use to fight misinformation might differ depending on the intention of the individual spreading the misinformation.